Good morning, good evening, everyone. It's so good to see you. Um, I'll read you Shokshu number 15 this morning. Keep breathing. The breath goes out, reaching everything in the universe and all of humanity. The breath comes in and falls into an infinitely small space in the lower abdomen. Keep breathing is the unknown practice that brings you to being one with the universe. If you do this alone at night, when the universe is calm and quiet, you will wonder if either you are the universe or if the universe is you. In other words, you will experience the ultimate joy of being one with the universe. Then the life energy of a human being becomes fully active. Excuse me. When we have a coin that has two sides, we cannot buy anything with one side of a coin. It's the coin that counts, not what's on either side. People often ask me, students ask, well, if there's plus key, then there must be negative key. Yeah. So is there negative key or not? Well, I always tell them that it's really up to you. It really depends on what you see. In other words, when we separate things into this side and this other side, right? Shinshin to its Aikido and uh, Aikigai Aikido, or pleasure and pain, uh, health and sickness, life and death, large and small. Then we choose one, we tend to dismiss or diminish the other. And by diminishing it and by making it other, we make it an enemy, or we make it threatening or dangerous to us in some way. And while we do that, we have created negative key. So it's fear that negative comes out of. When we can embrace the whole, or as Toy Sensei says, when we unify mind and body, when we experience unification of self and other, then there's only love. Everything becomes one. So it's really up to us. And Toy Sensei gave us this key breathing and key meditation, which involve opposites, breathing in, breathing out. Kagodaiho, Shuchuho, expansion and concentration. And he told us that you don't understand these exercises until you see that both sides are the same, that there's only one thing happening. When you can experience Kakudaiho and Shuchuho as the same, not opposites, as a whole, not one side is different than the other, but those two different sides brought together become the whole, become one. And then we can apply that to everything in our life, everyone we know, every problem that consults us, confronts us, every difficulty that arises. It all stems from this one single thing, this separation, this non-unification, this fear of other that we have. Yesterday, Carlos Boyer Sensei put together a wonderful tribute, a kind of memorial to Clayton Nalawai Sensei. I'm not sure that everyone here knows who that is, but he was a very well-known and beloved teacher here in Hawaii. He was, in fact, Hawaiian himself. And, he was Oh, Sensei said uh, that only a warrior of love is a true warrior. And that man was a warrior of love. So that means to me, and the experience of him was like bringing everything together. So this was a great experience. So thank you, Carlos, for doing that for all of us. Okay, let's begin with some key breathing. When we say unification, we generally mean bringing two disparate elements together as one. Now, we are not able maybe to think of two things at once or to deal with two things at once, two separate elements. But when we bring them together, then we only have one to deal with. And then we bring this other together and it's a bigger one. And then one more and one more and one more and one more. And the one just becomes bigger. So it's easy to deal with as long as it's unified. It's when we break it into pieces that it becomes a problem. So this is uh, what I used to call a whole body meditation. I changed the name to mind body meditation for obvious reasons. Uh, some people get confused with whole body breathing, which is the kaisho aspect of breathing. Yes, kaisho, gyosho, sosho. But this is unification. This meditation is bringing one point in the heart and the throat and the head to become one thing and rest in that one thing. And this is the essence of our practice in Aikido. Don't you think so? Okay, so maybe you'd like to make a comment about that or ask a question. Excuse me. We have some people here that haven't been here in a while. So welcome back. And I know you're here because there's a meeting later today, but it's still nice to see you. And don't be shy. If you'd like to say something, please feel free to. The wonderful thing about these kind of classes, of course, is that we are bringing disparate elements back together. What's not to love about that? In other words, the more often we get together like this, the deeper we have a sense of unity and understanding and acceptance. It's very easy for us to understand and accept what we love, what we know well, and what we're not, what doesn't seem foreign or unusual to us. Don't you think so? So the more you can bring yourself into any kind of group situation like this, the more you can let go of your sense of, well, maybe, there's nothing wrong with the power of one, of independence, as long as nobody's separate from you. So you can have independence as long as it includes everybody, please. Okay. Would someone like to say something, please? Otherwise, I'll just keep talking.
Sensei, with this Prakash speaking, with this show, I get caught up on the word this unknown practice. It doesn't quite. Yeah, could you say something about that?
Well, yes, I know why Toy Sensei put that in there. It's because he nobody else knows about it. In other words, it's special to Shinshin Jujutsu Aikido. And so, in that sense, he's sort of making a little claim of identity there, um, which is, so this brings up in me always when I think about this kind of thing, because we do this so often, don't we? We identify with, we make identity tab out of something that's different and special, like that business of, you know, my my group is better than your group. Uh, my school of Aikido is better than anybody else's school of Aikido. My way of spiritual training is superior to anyone else's method of training. I mean, we all have this sort of, it is an identity tag. It is something that we glom onto to make us feel a part of something. And it's unfortunate that being a part of something seems in the relative world to always leave someone else out. Someone else is not quite as good as we are, not quite as acceptable. Um, and this is the source of all of our suffering, isn't it? This separation, this sense of aloneness, that we end up being lonely and really miserable to ourselves when there's someone that we don't feel comfortable with, or someone that we leave out. And we do it by making ourselves special in some way. So let's not do that. I mean, yes, it's common and it's right there in the Shokushu. But of course, we also forgive. None of us is perfect, and we all do this in many ways. The important thing is to notice how we're doing them, not to blame ourselves or someone else, right? But just to notice how we're doing that ourselves in so many ways.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
you for thank you for bringing that up. It's always sort of sitting there, isn't it? That word unknown. Thank you. Okay, someone else, please.
Hello, Kuti Sensei.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. I have a small, it's not a question, it's a request. Would you please, next Sunday, lead us in this whole body meditation? Because I feel that this time I needed it, but it was not maybe appropriate in a between meditation ask for this. But would you please next time?
Yeah. I will. I will happily do that next time. Some other people have asked me also via email because they may be difficult to understand. And so let's call it mind-body meditation now. Is that okay? Is that all right with you?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's these, the thing that people have difficulty with this is the parts. There's 4 parts. We're used to just keep on point, and that's great. But the problem is that we so often keep on point over and against something else. It doesn't include everything. This meditation is meant to be an inclusive, an introduction to inclusion. In other words, Toy Sensei says 1 point and extend ki is the same, not different. Well, extend ki means inclusiveness. It means including more and more and more and more. Infinite, ki is infinitely extending. It means it includes everything infinitely. So this small body has these four fundamental elements. At least we can experience those as one thing. We can, in other words, take everything into account. We say in English, or we want to have a perspective. Sometimes we think of one thing over another. We choose a side in some kind of argument or something. That whenever we choose a side or we prefer something, it means we're not really taking the whole thing into account. We're not really walking in the other person's shoes. You know, the 5 principles of Shinshin Tuatsu Aikido. You know, it's not just know your opponent's mind, know your partner's mind, but put yourself in the place of your partner. That puts an end to separation. That puts an end.
Hello, Sensei. Vernon.
Oh, yes, hello, Vernon.
I have this breathing and meditation. I've noticed that I'm closing the gap between both meditation and breathing. And it's a wonderful experience of closing that gap and that space between breathing out or breathing in. And it's a wonderful experience that I've have noticed.
Yeah, maybe you recall one time I taught a class where I told you about Toi Sensei's teaching on the space between breathing out and breathing in. And that, he said, you folks don't understand keep breathing because you think it's about breathing out and breathing in. It's really about the space between breathing out and breathing in. And that space goes to infinity. So that to me really helps bring these two, key meditation and keep breathing together. Because it's all about infinity, isn't it? Kakudayo is to infinity. Shujuo is to infinity. Breathing out is to infinity, breathing in. Infinity is the unification of all separate parts. It's the end of seeing this world as relative or dual or made of separate, distinctive parts. Of course it is. Of course our senses can perceive that. But we have a higher sense where we can understand that not only are we a part of everything, but we're completely dependent. Well, this is a vast subject. We could go on and on about. I really appreciate everyone coming here today. And and maybe you noticed that I said, I recognize that the reason some of you are here is because there's a meeting afterward. So let me remind you that we'll close the class, but when we do all of those that are a part of the Europe Key Federation board meeting that's going to take place right after, please don't hang up, don't log out, just stay here. But everybody else, please skedaddle. Okay, is there anything else anyone else wanted to say?
Well, thank you, Sensei.
Okay.
Sensei, this is Gloria. Good morning, everyone, or good evening. I just wanted to thank you for that term, warrior of love. That's a term that really got to me and something that I aspire to be. So thank you very much.
Well, and it applies to him so thoroughly, doesn't it? to our friend. Okay, thank you.
It does, yes.
Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to say goodbye to everyone except the members of Europe Key Federation and those others. Okay. どうもありがとうございました。